Hi there. How are you?
Hey, we did it.
Yeah, sorry to keep you waiting, John. I just had to do a Zoom update and mess around. I haven't actually um, done any video stuff with this new computer, and then the video camera didn't want to, so got all
That's
that
cool.
sorted.
Fantastic. How you doing?
I,
You hear me okay?
yeah, I'm just wondering which microphone I'm currently using. I want to use. Can you hear tapping right now?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's coming from your headphones.
Okay, good. All right, nice. Um, Perfect. Oh well. Um, Thanks for having me. Nice to see you, John.
Yeah, you too. It's great to great to meet you. And before I go any further, I must like get your name right. So is your name Jess or Jesse?
Yeah, Jesse or
Jesse, fantastic.
Or Jesse is fine. Yeah,
Okay,
normally Jesse, but yeah,
brilliant.
Jess is
I'm
fine as
John.
well. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, nice to meet you, John.
I'm blessed with a super common name. Well, at least a common first name, at least.
Memorable.
That's right. Um, and yeah, happy today to do whatever you want, like just to chat and introduce ourselves, to interviewing each other, through to I don't know, jamming or just whatever you want to do. I'm totally open.
Yeah, that sounds at all of the above sounds pretty cool. Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
sent you like I sent you an intro video. I'd love to know a little bit more about yourself.
yeah, I think that's fair enough. And thanks so much for sending that. That was really nice. Um, so yeah, I guess overall, I tried to put up a nice decorative background to hide my metal van walls, but you can still tell that I'm in a van. I miscalculated the angle of it all.
That's brilliant.
So I'm just
I,
fiddling
I'm a
around
big
here.
I'm a big Van fan.
Van life van. Yeah. So yeah, originally from Canada, from Halifax, Nova Scotia,
Cool.
which is right over on the east side. And yeah, pretty average childhood for that region and stuff. Just grew up into mountain biking and skateboarding, and then eventually playing guitar at kind of 14 or so, and that was I guess a pivotal changing point in my life. As I got more and more into music, it led me down a more alternative thinking pathway,
Mm.
and started to kind of diverge from the typical uh, jocks and stuff that were previously kind of my friends at a younger age. Started to move away from that and become a bit more free thinking. And I mean, I guess that led to things like smoking weed with my friends, and that as well, which led to even more free thinking and thinking outside of the box as a teenager. And and that got me into, no, not that, but that opened opened my mind up even more, and was a factor, the along the pathway of becoming more open minded and looking into
Mm.
alternative aspects of life. um, I guess I'll say I met a girl around that age, around 15, 16, and I I feel, from my observation, not only her, but a number of other people that I've met at that age, you know, that were of that age, I felt like young girls were just like more likely to be open to spiritual kind of stuff going on at that age. So there
Mm.
we are, and we're both 15, 16. We became quite close friends, and she started to confide in me in her spiritual stuff. But she wasn't like into spiritual stuff. She didn't read books about it or anything like that. She
Yeah.
just had weird shit happen because she was
Uh,
open to weird shit, and she always had been since she was quite young.
yeah.
And that's something that she'd stayed connected with, and she sort of opened my eyes to this world that she was a part of, and was very magical glimpse into that, and it just made me realize, whoa, I think there is more going on. And as soon as I started to accept that, then I started to experience that, and I started finding coincidences and strange things in my life, like what she was describing, and that kind of thing, to some degree as well. And that that was sort of a point of no return, because I began to experience and observe things that couldn't be explained any other way. Fantastic. And I got into meditation. I was into anything like shamanism stuff and Buddhist meditation and anything like that. And I remember one time my dad came into my room as a teenager, and they'd seen, I don't know if it was a book I had or something that was about shamanism. My dad came in, he's like, "What's all this shamanism stuff that you're mucking around with it," and blah, blah, and kind of told me off for it. And I was like, you're just whatever, get out of here, you don't know anything. And didn't really tell me off. Well, he kind of did, like it's not his kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I just sort of ignored that at the time, but then consequentially, I guess you take that sort of stuff on a deeper layer, and I kind of did sort of steer away from that, unfortunately, because in hindsight, I do really enjoy that path, and I lost a good decade or so because of that sort of interest. But what I discovered at that point was that yoga was also a really profound spiritual path, but if I told people I was interested in yoga, they didn't think it was weird. Yeah. So that was like a win-win, and I started to really get into yoga and realize this is a really well laid out, lots of literature, lots of really advanced and like powerful things within this. But at the same time, people just think whatever they think it is. If you say you're into yoga, then they think you do stretching or whatever, and that's fine. Yeah. And so I followed that path for quite some time, and eventually became a yoga teacher as well, and was so I spent about 10 years studying it, and then I began teaching yoga, and then teaching the more physical side of yoga and yoga studios and stuff. But my personal study had been more like the philosophical and meditative, and that sort of brought it all together and wove those elements that I learned in my own time into my classes, and that worked quite well. And in the meantime, I was also got really into self-sustainability, and I spent my 20s really focused on growing my own food and stuff with my ex-partner. We grew everything ourselves, including 2 children, and chickens and goats and firewood, and like all of our heating was from the fire, and heated our water and everything, big gardens and animals and all that. And did that for about a decade as well, until I decided I wanted to emerge from the forest and rejoin society and make music again. And so I studied at university, did a bachelor's of audio engineering and contemporary music quite recently. I finished that just about a year ago as a 4-year program. And then from there I moved over to Australia, got this van, and I'm driving around playing music where anyone will listen.
Wow. That's so cool. And your backdrop, right? It's like, is it, if I'm seeing it right, it's pretty galactic. I see like is it like a planet? Oh, it's the Enterprise.
Yeah, it actually is. I don't know if it is pretty much, the Enterprise. Yeah. Yeah. Although it doesn't say Star Trek or anything on it. It's sort of a generic space. There are planets and other things around.
That's so cool. And because I was like, I have a small wardrobe for my home studio here, and I was like, what do I put on? It's like, and it's just like the first thing, like, put on this. It's like it's the kind of like space dolphins and whales, and it reminds me of some of my galactic past lives or parallel lives, and it's so cool. It's like, oh, look, we have like, I don't have the same background, but I'm like wearing something very similar themed. I love the galactic nature.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you can't go wrong with space dolphins and whales. And your background is also the sun, which fits the outer space theme.
that is very true. It's very true. Um, yeah, thank you for sharing your journey. It's like I and I love that you've been on it. Like you're awakening to like a broader reality, the bigger dimensions and the magic of reality, having at quite a young age, right? Like at a time when, and it's also a time in your life where you're just um there's what is it I can't remember how to describe it in like musical terms. You know, when you have like your favorite teenage bands, and there's like
Yeah.
there's some studies done that show that there's this link between that feeling that you have when you're a teenager of like, you know, the world is your oyster and you can do whatever you want with your life, and it's connected deeply with the music at that time you listen to. And so those experiences that you have, just they're so powerful and they just resonate out through the rest of your life. um and I can see, and I see like you're describing that interaction with your father. It's like I've had lots of interactions like that, and I often feel like it's it's a reflection of myself, right? I'm thinking, oh, but it's probably all made up. There's always that very small part of me, and when someone actually says it, I'm like, yeah, that 1% is probably right, and then I stop that thing. Um, that stopped me writing music for about um 15 years. Not particular someone else saying something, but more myself. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Well, that at that point is just a sort of a cumulative pot of little pieces from different people that because our society is really carries that level of skepticism and of our own personal musical abilities. It's like music is for professional singers, and everyone else should just listen. And it's pretty hard, I think, to avoid falling into that belief system. I think the only way to not fall into it is if you have some real strong role models that are supporting you musically from a young age. Otherwise, society believes that you're not a musician.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, which is terribly detrimental to individual and social health, I believe. Like, that's kind of my main, and I think what I'm getting from you as well, is like encouraging a lot of these elements back into our general populace. And I think singing is a great, singing and dancing to me are really great foundational points to just revitalize people to those elements that are really part of humanity, but we've been stripped of by a self-conscious and undermining society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you, I'd love to learn a little bit how it felt when you were living like off grid and sustaining yourselves. Like what was that like at a spiritual level? Like how did it feel being like the Zen master on top of the mountain?
Yeah. Well, it was a lot more like just doing it rather
Mm-hmm.
than basking in the romanticized image of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was much more like feet on the ground, just doing it. And there's a lot to do, but the result of doing that was very connective to nature on a fundamental level that was just became inherent rather than like a goal or so some sort of romanticized sort of vision that is like, yes, I'm going to connect with nature today. It was just
Yeah.
like, that's just what happened because you just had shit to do that involved connecting with that. So I also did have a job because we started on someone else's property and then we got our own. And to have that property, we got a mortgage, and so I was working as well to pay for that property. But other than that, yeah, we were. So it was very demanding, I guess, on a lot of levels because I was often working a 50-hour work week, and then I would come home every day from work and chop firewood and do all that kind of thing that needed to be done on the weekends, doing larger tasks and stuff. And yeah, so it was pretty full on, but I loved every second of it. And gosh, I put a lot of energy in, and I didn't like through my teenage years, making music was like my main thing, and I was really proactive about that and getting out there with it and spending evenings writing and playing. And during that time, I barely played any music, but my creativity became my day-to-day tasks. It was like building a chicken coop or something like that, for example, became an artistic journey. And like, man, I loved at the end of the day, like busting my ass, working away on, like, we use that chicken coop as an example. And then at the end of that, just sitting down on a log next to it and just looking at that thing that I'd achieved that day. Then I would just sit there for half an hour, and I smoked cigarettes in those days. And I would just sit there and have a cigarette and just look at what I'd done, and just that was my art. And I really was like really proud of it. Yeah. Or could be anything, doing a row, planting or harvesting potatoes or whatever it might be. But every day it was your own type of art. And I think that was a, fundamental type of art that's functional, but still creative elements in it as well. And so I guess that's probably where I derived most of the spirituality from. It was in the doing of it. I also was spending a lot of time in the either in the garden or in the bush, in the forest around and stuff as well. So connecting, I guess, in that way. But I guess the problem, not problem, but that high level of demand that both was required, and I guess maybe I applied, did sort of squash out some of the finer moments that could be more relished when we're looking through a spiritual lens. I guess it was much more goal orientated than because it had to be, because there was just so much to do to make it work. And so I felt I was always on the back foot trying to like keep up. And
I can imagine
that. Yeah. But in the end, I decided, I think this is something I might like to return to when I'm older. But in the meantime, I want to get out and reconnect with society again, and all that. And on a deeper personal level, everyone's path is different, so I'm like careful how I share this. But for me, I found a realization that for me and my partner, or for me and ideally a small group of people or whatever, to be growing all our food and stuff off of the land and all that was really nice, but it wasn't available to the whole world. Not everyone could go buy 10 acres of land like we did, in fact, we're still talking about the 10% of the planet or something that has the ability to actually really live that sort of lifestyle easily. And so I realized at that point, well, if this isn't available to everyone, then it's not really self-sustainable, because we're all on the same planet together, and we need the planet to be self-sustainable. And if I just run away from society and grow my own food, and I don't participate in society, then this society, the way it's going, is going to blow up the whole planet anyway, including the part that I'm on in the bush, in the forest. So it can't, just full severing and saying, screw you, society, I'm leaving, doesn't really, that's like saying, like, on, being on the Titanic and saying, well, then I'll go to the other side of the ship. It's like, well, this doesn't work. We're all on the same boat. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do now, is get out here and play some sort of role in creating possibility for people to think differently. Even on a subtle level of just a busker on a street corner can bring a smile and a bit of positivity and change the world in larger ways than I think we would give ourselves credit for normally.
And I'd love to hear a bit more about your recent journey, and the adventures you've been on are you living in your van now and
Yeah.
touring?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'll trace back a little bit. Probably almost 10 years ago, when I did move off of that land situation, I decided to get back into music. And what the idea I came up with was to travel across the length of New Zealand, hitchhiking, starting with zero money, hitchhiking, trying to find gigs, doing busking, and filming it all and making a documentary of this trip. And I planned to take 6 months up the country doing that. For a number of reasons, I probably only made it. Well, I made it over halfway. I made it almost the whole way, but not all of it got turned into the documentary. But anyway, there's a good 8 episodes, 8 1-hour-long episodes on YouTube that I made out of that, and they're quite fun and interesting. And the magic, I was trying to capture the magic of the spontaneity of life, of when you surrender and just go out there and trust, like, in the universe to like provide and that kind of thing, and the magic that can happen. That when we plan everything out to a T, we close the door for magic to sneak in. And I wanted to show that other side, that this is possible. And I think that worked to a large degree, and that was really cool. Then I went back down to where I was living for a little while, and then a few years later, I decided I want to do that again, but this time I'm going to do it with a van. And I booked gigs, and I traveled the length of the country again with a van, not making a documentary this time, just traveling in the van and doing some gigs across the country. That went great for another few months. And I realized I really loved both ways, the hitchhiking and the van. But the van made it a lot more achievable to like take some equipment and do proper gigs and all that, and always have somewhere to sleep and stuff. So I thought, that was really cool. I really had a great time with that. And I guess around then I decided I would like to do this in Australia one day. And then I did that study and that sort of stuff, and then finally came here to do that. That was about a year ago I moved over, but I spent the first 8 months working in construction to get the van. So basically I worked long enough to get a loan to get quite a nice van. So it's actually, I don't know if you have them over there, but it's an LDV. It's a Chinese made, but it's big. It's like a Transit. You can stand up in it. It's got plenty of room, which is much better than the one I had in New Zealand, which was breaking down and that kind of. And I decided I don't want to have one because then you get these surprise $2,000 bills. Yeah, I thought it's better just to pay it week by week and have something reliable. So that's what I did. And then so about 5 months ago now, I secured the van and got out here, and I've mostly been in an area called the Gold Coast, which is a pretty large pocket. And I travel around this area doing sort of loops in different places and playing busking every day for the most part, and then trying to find gigs off the back of that. And I've found a few here and there, but mostly it has been busking so far. But it really goes pretty well. It pays the bills. I did 2 hours of busking today and made $100. That's pretty standard. Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. It's not always that good. It can be about in my good spots that I know if I go to them, it's generally pretty reliable to be that good. But I'm always trying new ideas and things, and some of them don't work so well. Yesterday I played a gig in a restaurant, which was nice. That was for Father's Day. Down here is Father's Day, and that was good as well. 3-hour gig there. Those opportunities are slowly coming, and getting out there busking gives me the chance to meet new people and stuff like that and get more opportunities. I'm pretty content with it. And but at the same time, I want to get a little bit further ahead where money's not a struggle. Currently, I kind of am sort of always well, wouldn't that be great? And wouldn't we all? Money is always a struggle, but like I've probably never been as stingy and cheap as I have been in these past 5 months, especially and I'm getting better at it. Like I've been like in the shop contemplating buying Oreos the other day, and I was like, no, I just can't afford it, kind of thing. Which is like a $2 purchase, and normally when you're working and stuff, things like that, it's not too much of a worry, but. Which has been good as well and gives me a lot of appreciation. And the last note on that, what I love about busking is it's like when you have a job and they tell you, okay, we're going to give you this much per hour, and then you work your hours. You're like, okay, now give me my money. Whereas, because you've earned it and it's mine now, right? Whereas when you go out busking, you don't know what you're going to get, and you're just going out there with a hopeful heart. And when I come back and I count and see how I went, I'm always so thankful. It's like, wow, what a great gift from the universe. And it feels much more like a gift instead of something I'm entitled to, and
Yeah,
therefore creates more general gratitude in my life. So I like that about the busking side.
I love that.
Amazing
I
things
think
happen. Sometimes one person will give you a couple. Like the other week, someone gave me $200. Just one person, you know. So like,
incredible.
yeah. And it's funny. Oh, sorry, I keep rambling. But what lastly, I generally have a goal about to try to make $100 a day, and the amount of times that I come back and I've made like exactly $100 with no real way to know, because it's just in this little bucket. You can't really tell. Like I have a rough idea, but the amount that it's always exactly my goal is really strange to me. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, yeah. I've recently decided maybe I should start envisioning that I'm going to make 150 every day and see if that works. And for the most part, it did. It didn't today, but for the most part, it actually has up to the income. So that's really interesting about that manifestation side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, it's like you're saying to the universe, you're saying, I am, like when you set out on your journey in the start of the day to go busking, you're like, I am the $100 per day busker. And the universe is like, yep, got you. You're the $100. Yep, I'll remember that. And then like I just need to figure out who's going to give you the $100 today and when. Um and it's really strange, right? Like one of the things I like practice is trying to see my journey more and to see that when people witness me at this point in my journey, that everyone will be really interested, including myself, about what I was like back at this time. So the future version of me would look back and go, "Oh yeah, I used to like sit in my studio a lot and record a song by myself, but wasn't that quite funny that um in that stage before I went off and did these other bigger things?" And it's the actual version of you is everything. It's everything all at once, right? And so when you're going and you're bussing in front of people, they don't know that you're changing the world until you start to change their world, even just a little smile, or they happen to notice you, or they happen to feel the frequency or the vibration from your music, and they're like, oh yeah, there is more to life than just me walking to Starbucks or walking into work, or I'm late for the gym, or whatever it is that's on their mind. Um, and what I really love about your music, and I can see like I feel like the biggest reason the universe has like connected me with you is that's a big part I love, is like just going out into the street and um like expressing that magic to people, because they don't expect to have someone create for them and with them in that present moment. And for that split nanosecond that you grab each other's attention and you connect, that it's so beautifully mutually beneficial. And that they see like, oh, you would you would create a song for me. You would do this for me. I've never even met you, and you're doing this amazing thing for me. Um, and something I hear a lot is people saying, no one has ever written me a song before. No one's ever done that for me. And they feel it's like a huge moment in their life when someone is singing and playing guitar to them. And I see so much of that in your work, but also your brave desire to like just step out and live being human, right? Connecting with all the other humans and going, I don't care who you are, what you're doing. I'm a human too, and I'm gonna help. And here's how I do it. And it's really inspiring. Like it truly is. And it's definitely helped me think more about my kind of reconnections with the rest of the world, and how I'm, in part coming out of hermit mode, and in part also like broadening the ways that I connect with people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's nice. Uh, like the way you're describing, just like connecting with the different individuals on a absolutely randomized basis, of course, as well. But then ultimately, is it randomized? We do. So there's a reason for all those chance interactions, and that might be just what that person needed that day. And we played our role in that by feeling that call in ourselves that I need to go to this place to make music today. And even unbeknownst to ourselves, maybe they're not one of the people that say hello, but it's still, connected with them in a way that shifted something that they really needed that day. Or, so there's so many variables that we're a part of. And I find it a good, fun challenge, because it's amazing that you can connect with all different types of people, from, the young kids, like, to the, to the children, to teenagers, or then like elderly people, and trying to meet them all on their page in a way that you can connect with them. I find is really interesting. Like, if you know do you know Fraggle Rock? Do you remember that show?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, fantastic show. And there's one episode in it with the about the minstrel, and you would absolutely love the episode. If you would check out the minstrel episode of Fraggle Rock, it's the best. It's so good. And it's basically this wandering minstrel, and he wanders around the caves to different regions of the caves, and sometimes he pops by the Fraggles world, but he goes to all other realms of the caves and stuff. And one of the Fraggles wants to join and be a minstrel too, and she thinks that she's a top-notch musician already, and she starts singing a song to do you remember the little doozers?
Yeah. The guys that build
these
stuff.
Little guys that are always always building everything. So she goes up and she starts singing this song to them, and the doozers are just like totally offended by this sound. They're like, this is an awful sound, relocate immediately, and they move away. And then the main minstrel comes up and he starts making a song, and then they're like, oh, sound vibrations now classified as music, and they like are enjoying the music. And he's like a guru, he's so wise, this main minstrel, and he says to this Fraggle, he says, he says the doozers know their songs, but a minstrel knows all songs. Implying that you need to know your audience and play to the right crowd. A good minstrel can play to all the different type of people and play the type of music that they enjoy. And that's what it's like when there's the young kids coming by. I start going hard rapping for them, and then the little old lady comes up, and I'll take the same chords and turn it into like a real sweet lullaby and sing it to them like so softly. And it's really, really advantageous to learning how to connect with your fellow humans, I think, because there's always a way. Yeah, it's a lot to be learned from busking, or just as you say, just going out and making music in the streets. Yeah, like you do. Yeah,
I love that. It's been a theme for me recently. Is like meeting people at their vibrations, and I find that really fascinating, because when I look at my life just now, it's like it's at quite distinct vibrations and often quite big gaps in the spectrum. So, the 3 days a week where I'm working in a corporate as a senior software development manager is a kind of stark contrast to what I'm doing now. Like today, I'll be doing a couple of energy healing sessions. I wrote a song and meditation this morning, and I'll be going into the city this afternoon with my wife for like a date lunch. And like when I go to my 3 day a week job tomorrow in a corporate, it'll be like it's very different, and it's fascinating because I've been there 7.5 years, and increasingly I brought all of me to that role, So I turn up as like, the musician, the meditation, energy healer, and many find it really baffling and intriguing, and a bit like the uh, your experience with the book on shamanism. It was like I'm I'm now like I feel like there's this thing in between that I want to find. I want to find a way of I love like one of the big passions. I really love doing energy healing, and that's a hugely broad umbrella, which I probably isn't super helpful to describe it as that, but it's broad in that it's everything from past life regressions and helping people understand their galactic origins and soul retrievals, chakra clearings and healings, and more recently been helping people more with like physical issues as well. I was helping a client yesterday with get a fractured tailbone from an accident, and so I was helping them with that healing. And so now I've just stepped into for the first time, like trying to get some formal training in areas that will be more that allow me to reach people more broadly. So just like you describe in music, like I love being able to do different spectrums of musical styles and frequencies, and yeah, connect with people. Like I often find it really hard connecting with people 1 minute like in a pub, and then where they're drinking a lot of alcohol and they're like they want something to uplift them and dance around, through to like meditation where people love connecting with that quiet like inner voice, and they want to like reflect and clear themselves. And I feel like much of my music has been more towards the meditation end, and now I'm ready to take things like my energy healing back out to the masses more. And I've just signed up for a course. About it starts in 2 weeks. It's a year's course learning reflexology, which I've always
Okay.
loved massage, and reflexology always fascinated me. But I know almost nothing about the human body, like the biology aspects. And it's really intriguing to me because when I'm doing energy healing, I can psychically see it. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And I'm like asking my guides, like, what's that thing? Like, is that the heart or is that like the liver? I don't know. Um, and I feel like over time, once I'm, more have some more training, I'd like to meet people at some of the healing modalities that they're more familiar with, and keep doing all the other things at the same time, so that I'm just increasing that spectrum so that I can meet them where they're at. Like in the UK,
Yeah.
they're starting to refer um, people to things like reflexology from hospitals, and they have like people in house, and it's like it's changed from being alternative to now complementary medicine, which is still a little bit patronizing, but like I get the idea. It's like there's a mainstream, and then there's this other stuff which may help, and then
Yeah.
there's other stuff that will just probably get you locked up for even thinking. But it's the bit in between. I'm seeing like, oh yeah, I could keep growing my healing and meditation work, but I I really want to help more people than I do want to just be the best energy healer, if you like. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
that, how that resonates in your music.
Yeah. Like, yeah, that's, that's true. Like, and I like your pathway of thinking with that because, yeah, otherwise, I think it's important to be flexible on our end. Otherwise, it just becomes rigid and representing like all former systems of spirituality that became so rigid they became religions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there has to be flexibility within that and meet people on their own page and their own sort of thing, and just give them a little something to think about, packaged in something that they all already like. You're not just telling them, oh, you shouldn't like that, you should like this. Like when I go around, oh gosh, oh, I'll just plug my computer in. Where's that cable? That's your one. Sorry, my apologies. My
Okay.
I don't know, it was here. Well, luckily I spotted it anyway. It's normally always plugged in, but it was unplugged, so yeah, nearly caught
it's
me
always
out.
and it's always fun keeping power in a van, right? It's sometimes more important than money.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Prior to having the proper solar setup, I had like a little small battery bank thing that I had to charge different places and bring it in here, and that was quite a nightmare. But now with the proper solar setup, it's so good just to be able. It was felt like absolute magic to just be able to plug something in and it just work. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Obviously can't run all things, but it's a pretty good setup now. Yeah, so like when I go out like doing like nighttime busking and stuff, I'll go out like at like midnight or something around the bars and play for people that are around the streets and stuff then. And like I don't drink alcohol and go to bars or do any of that. But it's still nice to go and connect with those people and just I don't like drunk people either, but to just see past that, and that the alcohol does help them be a bit more open-minded to what's going on, and of course they're a bit obscured and stuff as well, but there's still genuine connection and joy and magic being created there when people are just like, oh wow, this guy's freestyling, yo, check this out, and they'll just get so pumped up, and then I do like freestyle rhymes and stuff, but some of it is like quite philosophical and some of it's just lighthearted and jokey, and those bits and pieces get through. But I think it's more the energy and the feeling behind it. If you can just bring a lot of love and beauty in something, it doesn't really matter what format. I guess that's what freestyling has taught me. Is like I'll sing over any kind of style of music. I really don't care. It can be country or rap or rock and roll or whatever. I'll sing to it, and you can make magic happen in that. It's just a format, but what you do with it is limitless.
That's incredible. Like your ability, like you're a fantastic singer, but your ability to improvise at pace to rap, it's hard. Like it's sometimes I feel like I could like croon out a long word over like several seconds singing it, and I'm like, my brain has probably thought of maybe 2 or 3 lines, but like you're like when I see you perform, you're just doing it real time, like it's just flowing through. It appears like there's almost no opportunity for your mind to say and then say this and then say that.
And I think that is ultimately the secret, or one of the secrets. I mean, what you describe as well, there's nothing wrong with having that way and putting that foresight in, and that can be helpful for leading you to a particular destination. If we want to talk about freestyling or improvising, the journey behind that, I feel like there's almost 3 or more, but let's just say there's 2 ways of improvising. One is what I've realized other people tend to do, or this is to figure out where you're going and then figure out how to get there, which works really well for engaging an audience in real time when you want to rap about their shirt and the place that you're in and real relevant, tangible, physical things. That's kind of the best way to do it. It's like you're looking around, you see their shirt's green, and then you're like, okay, what rhymes with green? Mean. Okay, I'm going to say something that ends with the line mean, and then the next line will end with green, and I'll point at his shirt, and then it's really cohesive. But the other way of doing it, which is more what I've focused on, is to say something, land on an ending word, and then say, okay, what rhymes with that and how can I get there? And then it becomes more of just a leapfrog sort of scenario if you're just constantly going from one thing to the next. And for me, doing that stuff on the street has made me get better at the former style where you figure out where you want to go and then you get there. But this style of not knowing where you're going and just finding your way, like just jumping to the next thing. I imagine like a monkey swinging through the trees. He doesn't have a map, but he's got trust in his heart that he's going to find the right branch at the right space. And he's got a lot of like real, like intense computing going on in there that's becoming aware of branches and opportunities that he's not consciously even thinking about, and he just always finds the right branch at the right time, and it just works. And that seems more of a spiritual experience for me when I freestyle, sing, and rap in those ways, because it's total surrender. It's like I'm just saying something, and I get to the end of the line, and I just find my way to the next line, and I don't know where it's going. And then it seems to have more opportunity to become channeling, because it's just, I can't know. It's too much. And like you said, so this is my reply, it's long-winded, to what you were saying about knowing how do you have time to think about what you're going to say next. And I find the secret is just to not know. If you don't know what you're saying next, then it creates, you have to surrender. And when you surrender, then spirit comes through instead. And it's like, I got you, and fills in the blanks, and it just somehow works. And to your own astonishment, and you're just sort of a witness as well. Like, holy fuck, I thought you say a word and you're like, oh no, what's going to rhyme with that word? And if you overthink that, then you'll screw up. But if you just trust and keep on going, then somehow you find something that rhymes with that word automatically. Like and you're just watching as a witness, like, wow.
I love that. I love it so much. And yeah, thank you for sharing like your process and experiences. Like it's because it's so magical to witness. I feel like some of my superpowers are like being able to be tenacious and keep working on my mission each day, like writing a song each day. And then some of my kind of areas I'm growing with are acknowledging the gifts, like the abilities that helps grow. And so it took me, for instance, like 900 days before I realized that I was asking my spirit guides for 900 songs over 900 days, and every day they delivered. And every day I didn't need to write it down. I just needed like I say it now in like a minute long, hi, it's Jon, and today a meditation video. And that's what they tell me. Well, it's my higher self and highest self and my guides. So speaking to this reality, and then I just sit down and I just flow through the song. And that really helped me understand this ability to channel. And then a couple of years ago when I started doing energy healing sessions, I really wanted to incorporate music. And so let's say if it's like an hour long session with someone, I would go about, say, 30 minutes or 40 minutes into it. And this is like super deep. Like in some of these sessions, I think in some of the first sessions I was doing, and these are public on YouTube, so it's okay for me to share a bit of detail. But they included things like retrieving parts of someone's soul from like the lower regions of hell, or helping someone understand their parts in the destruction of a previous universe, and how they've come into this universe to help us, and that a lot of what they went through wasn't really their fault, and often people are acting on behalf of the universe, source, and karma. And so these songs that I would just pick up my guitar and I'd just set the intention and I would say, I just say it out loud, just say guides, including my clients' guides, like please channel through me at this time to create a song that will help my client so they can come back and listen to this message at any time, this frequency, this feeling, this vibration. And as I did those songs, it shocked me about because I hadn't done any like prior meditation or any preparation to it. It surprised me that in a prior 45 minutes, I said less than I was able to say in the 4 minutes of song that I would create for them. And and even though it was a lot less words, and I guess no one remembers like, our gurus, including like Yoda, like no one remembers like a massive, 6-page document. They just remember like really simple quotes, and because they're so powerful. And when I began singing like that, I was like, this is incredible. Like this is a very different dimension of music. And from there I went on to doing more like I think the first thing I did was just starting doing some gigs where I'd just improvise some songs, so maybe half songs I'd either done myself or some covers, and then the other half would be just improvised. And I remember the first time I did it, I was stood on a little stage in a pub in Edinburgh, and it's like down in the kind of the old town that's like underground, and it's the energy there is like super dense, but the people all want to party. And so I did this, like I remember the first song I did, and I just remember looking down at my guitar and I was like, I have literally no idea what I'm going to play now. I've got no idea. And I just set the intention and said, I just said to myself, now create this beautiful song to uplift these beautiful people's spirits. And I just went into it, and they loved it. And people would ask me afterwards, oh, where can I hear that? Like, if it's on Spotify or something, or on YouTube or anything? It's like, no, that was it.
You can hear it now, and you did.
You heard it, and that's it, really, forever. And I literally cannot remember it. And yeah, I really love that surrender. Like I think what I was trying to come to the most was the intention that you set when you're creating is like arguably the most important thing, because if you set the intention to connect with someone, or to share a message with them, or to help raise their vibrations, or sometimes it's just like connecting with someone and just acknowledging how they're feeling, and sometimes that's really dark and a horrible place, but you're there with them, and you're standing by their side. And I feel like when you create music like that, it's the intention you set just before you start playing that really kind of, I see it as like it encodes the emotions and the energy into the notes and the words and the songs that then come through.
Yeah. That's a really great point. I'm just curious, do you know how do you choose the music side of it, guitar wise? Do you just literally pick new chords you've never put in that order before, or do you have some? Because I tend to have some chords that I have two different patterns of chords that I'll play, and I'll pick one of those like a song, but then I'll do my own thing. Do you have set chords that you'll use sometimes, or?
I would say no. There's no intention to repeat music or patterns. I'd argue if you listen to whatever the 2,200 songs I've written, you see the patterns. There's definitely patterns through them. But yeah, I just when I sit down like I did this morning and turn on my mixing desk, I allow that that moment, it's a few seconds, like 2 or 3 seconds before I take an action, to allow the magic to come through. So it's like, capo, yes or no? Capo, yes. Oh, okay, capo for, I put it on, my guitar is always tuned to 432 hertz, and I put it on, my capo today was on the first fret, which and I was like, oh, that means I could do it'll then when I play E, which is actually F, will work with my singing bowl, which is a heart chakra crystal quartz singing bowl. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I could do that too, but I'll see how it goes. And then I just started playing. Yeah, I just play the first chords, like same again. I just stare at the guitar for a moment. It's like, okay, now play. And yeah, whatever comes through. It usually takes me about um something in the region of about 20 seconds. Like I'll play a little bit of the verse and I'll get a sense of what the chorus probably is. And then I just have to start recording. Like I can't, if I think too much, I'll
Oh
just
yeah.
trip over myself a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that I struggle with as well, is differentiating the verse and the chorus sometimes. I probably, most of my music is more verse than chorus. And sometimes I might go into something that's chorusy and maybe even sing it a couple times, but then I don't remember to bring it in again later. So, because I forget what it was, to like come back to that same chorus another time in the song, and to have that larger scope of things is something that I'm still working on. That awareness, I guess. Yeah. But I really like, the deeper point of what you were saying previously was the intention, and setting that intention based on circumstance. Yeah, I think I probably do that sometimes, but not in all instances. So that's a nice reminder to really keep that at the forefront of. So yeah, thanks for that. That's cool.
That's
yeah,
my pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel it took me quite a while to understand it. And it took a friend to say to me, John, if you just turn up every day and start creating when you're in a lack mentality, like, there's been periods of my journey where I've just been like, someday someone will listen to a song. Please just listen to one of my songs. And like, if I just create in that attitude, it doesn't matter how upbeat and, whatever energy I put into that song, if the intention is just like, I need like more than 2 views, please, more than 2 views today. Like it is just telling the universe, like, when someone watches it, like, wow, that guy's so needy when they hear the song. And what I really want them to feel is like, I'm so glad that the universe helped me, guide me to listen to that guy's song today, because it just feels like I really needed that. And yeah, I love like setting that intention. It's definitely a practice. I learned a lot of that through my energy work as well, is that we just bleed energy constantly when we don't, and randomly, and including into the things we create. Like a chicken coop or whatever it is that we're creating. Like if we create with unintentional energy, we bring everything, right? It's like, oh yeah, and I haven't paid that bill from last month, and I'm worried about what I'm doing after this, and all these things kind of mixed in together. And I feel that as the veil thins, as our planet, much of our planet continues to raise in its vibrations, that's becoming increasingly clear to people. And this is where like the traditional music industry, and even some of the traditional concepts like verses and chorus, like they just start to fall by the wayside, right? Because people will literally listen to stuff. And I've heard, big name artists, in interviews saying things like, oh yeah, I created that song from like 198 takes and it's all put together. Like, you know what that's going to feel like in a few years' time? People are going to be like, that's kind of jumbled, garbled energy. It'll just feel weird to listen to. And the more we just surrender and flow with, behind an intention, the more people will just feel it so naturally. And that's the sense I get when I see the audience connected with you. They're like, they just get it, right? And I know not everyone does, or not everyone express it in that moment in the same way, but that there's no veil between you, right? There's no editing. There's just you and some air.
Yeah, it becomes more of a journey, I think, in that way. Like I said, it doesn't always have that verse chorus structure and stuff like that. It's more of like a journey that one goes upon, and it has highs and lows and different moments, and some are upbeat and some are confused and struck by the challenges of life, and then find the way through it and come back to a good space. And it's like this whole, and becomes a meditative sort of thing in that way. And yeah, like what you were saying, it's beyond like a verse chorus sort of structure. Sometimes it's different to that. It's a journey. It's like I love listening to like for lots of different things. But for example, if you're listening to like Alan Watts or something like that, it doesn't matter that he doesn't keep coming back to a chorus. It's a journey, and you go with him on that journey, and it takes you different places and different thoughts and ideas, and you flow with that. And sometimes, like I want to have an element of that, and this is like a philosophical journey that you can follow along to the beginning to the end.
Yeah,
rather than
definitely.
Yeah,
I love one of the things I find hardest in terms of surrendering to like no structure are things I did it was a couple of weeks ago. I did a light language song where I'm just like channeling, what many would just see as like kind of garbled made up language. And so there's not even like the English language for me it's the only one I know to grab onto, and just singing a cappella. I was like, I don't even know, like in the moment, I'm not really sure, other than the intention and the feeling behind each word, and how it feels in my heart. I wouldn't necessarily know consciously how to bring back what I might have perceived as a chorus when I started. And I find those unstructured songs, or doing that with a singing bowl, or even sometimes when I create a mix where the mix is like maybe Cherokee flutes and the singing bowl, like I've just improvised the whole thing and I have no idea how to come back to it, including when I go back and try and sing over the top of it. Like I just can't remember, and I'd have to listen to it multiple times to consciously spot patterns. But I do find that amazing when both go through that surrender journey and then listening back to it and like improvising over what you've created, is if you just keep that same state of flow and surrender and keep the same intention, it's amazing how it does align. Like it would be incredibly difficult technically to do it, and would take a lot of deep understanding, but intuitively you can achieve things that just seem impossible. And I feel like I did a couple of tracks like that recently, and I was like, I don't really know how that works together. Like I don't know if I could replicate that, but I could probably replicate the process of surrendering. But the songs would be very different each time. And yeah, I love exploring new ways to just erode my conscious programming of my own limitations. I find I don't really practice music beyond playing each day, and I feel that that's also a great way of exploring, like we explore new restaurants or places to visit or wherever we go, trying some of these different techniques that just constantly erodes my ego's ability to limit me or control me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm much the same. Like for me, busking is practice. Like that is my practice session, and there's no mistakes. I can't make a mistake. I try different things. Sometimes it fails, and I just laugh and whatever, and I just keep on going, and I'm just constantly polishing and honing mostly this improvising skill based on just pure repetition and just being out there doing it day after day. And I love that I have bills that require me to make money, so I have to go out there and do it each day. Like what you're saying, like turning up and doing it every day, like what you've done for 900 days or more now. And yeah, it's really good, and just keep peeling that onion. of exploration. Yeah. Something that I've been thinking about more and more lately is magic. I really can't describe what's happening with improvised music with any other term but magic, like, and not just like, oh wow, that's magical. And again, I like the word magic because you can use it really casually, but it's also really heavy and profound, actually. And yeah, it's like, what is happening with this improvised stuff is like, you cannot make that happen by playing a pre-written song, whether you wrote it or even worse, if someone else wrote it. You can make a lot of beauty and stuff, like, no disrespect to that as what it is, but this thing that happens with improvised music doesn't happen like that. You can't practice it and do it, or I don't know, you know what I mean? It's like, and more and more I'm just finding myself like wanting to learn about magic and how to weave those elements into the music, and because it's like, this is actually magic that's happening here, and I do believe that it can change the world. And especially the more people you have involved, it's like, if I do it by myself, well, that's pretty powerful. If I do it with a group of 5 people, wow, it feels so much more powerful. If you do it for 20 people, it's like, wow, you know. And imagine doing it with 1,000 people. You can really start changing the world on a really meaningful scale, in a way, on a level that common folk like you and me aren't supposed to have the means to do, like that, you know. But there's like a loophole that, like, actually we're allowed to play concerts and get people involved.
Yeah, I'll just be a few minutes. Okay, will do. Thank you. I have my dog with me now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I like, you see what Harry Potter did to the world, right? It's just like, there's magic. People, it exists. And in whichever like dimension you want to believe it, whether it's pure fiction, whether it's that feeling you get when, if you're a massive Harry Potter fan, that you'd like, like, in somewhere, in some realm, it's real. And I feel like that was, for me, that was a really big turning point, because I realized, like, my kids are both big Harry Potter fans, and those realities, those realms that are created, they resonate a lot with some of my a lot of my like experiences that I have in both music and then in energy healing. Like, in an energy healing session, we can go through things that are like, you know, I touched on some of them, right? Like destructions of universes, or people having, you know, developing and activating incredible gifts that just seem so magical. Like, and to the person, like the last one I did, my client is like unlocking this gift to be like in a forest. When I was being shown is that certain trees take that have the deepest roots take on the role of grounding the deepest, like the darkest energy, and sending it down into earth. And they were showing me that this is her gift. And I was like, that's a thing. And they're like, yeah. And her guides are saying, oh, and in trees and in forests, they take it in turns. Like they can do it for sometimes decades. And then when another tree gets the deep enough roots, they'll take over. And I was like, I just love the symbology and the physical reality of it. And my client was like, yeah, that's, I always found it really hard to explain what I can do. Like, when I connect with people, I can just take like their pain, and with them, I can like just send it deep into the ground, and just release that excess energy. And I love trees, but I'd never thought of the two being similar. And the magic in those moments, because I'm often asking my spirit guides, I'm like, hey guys, is this like, you know, is this a thing? Like, do you know this is possible? And they're often like super open-minded. They just say, well, we didn't know it either, but isn't that amazing? Like, and it's always this, there's no single being in the universe that knows. And I feel like at the very heart of magic is, there is no explanation, and the beauty is in the journey of trying to discover, and that feeling you get of trying to discover the cause of the magic, and knowing that you'll never really truly understand it, and it's not meant to be understood, and that it often comes and goes so fast. It's like, click of a fingers, and it'll never be witnessed again. Like, did you just see my dog spoke? And they're like, no. Did he? And well, he did. It's like he's magic. And those, yeah, those moments, like it's just so exciting. And I feel like when like music's one of those modalities where you connect with people and they just feel like um they witnessed the unexplainable, and it can be how they feel, it can be your performance, it can be the connection between you, it can be any of these things. um and and even even the things like you're saying about the $100 a day, or for those moments that people are often guided to come and listen to you. They'll be like divinely timed. They'll be like, oh, like I was stuck in traffic for 10 more minutes today and I can't explain why. And then there they are, stood in front of you, right on time. And you're like,
Yeah.
and your focus turns to them and like, right, this one's for you. And the universe has gone through all these magical steps, all behind the scenes, and then put it in front, join the two together. And yeah, you're just witnessing these incredible moments.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. I had one thought halfway through that I was thinking of, but I just went on the journey of everything that you said. So I think I've lost that one thought that I wanted. But overall, yeah, it is exactly like that, and we're totally weaving and creating and casting these spells with the words that we're saying. And yeah, I had this thought that like maybe I could write some songs that did have choruses, or like, so they have like a chorus, but then you can improvise the verses, but the choruses could be like a more of like a spell that's like an intention to like manifest something, or whatever that might be, or not necessarily to manifest, but to uphold or what have you, as the chorus of the song. Because like you said, like with Yoda, the main keyword getting, that's like what people remember. And if you could have a chorus that actually could help people establish something in their life that would be positive just by having a song stuck in their head, instead of it being like a Drake song that's like whatever the fuck he says, I don't know. It could be, a chorus that's actually doing good in their psyche by being caught in there on repeat. Is an interesting path, I think, to think about as well. And you could have different songs for different intentions, and people could, I don't know. I feel like there's could be something to explore there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, all of the above, right? And yeah, it's an incredible journey. I think I have done that sometimes. I think often if I'm trying to remember a song that I've written, which I remember very few. Like I think I can only, if I picked up my guitar now, I could maybe play 20 out of about 2,200. And and so inevitably sometimes when I'm trying to just play the whole song end to end, the verse is quite different each time. And then they're like, but I do remember the chorus. I remember it. I can do that thing.
Yeah.
And I love also just the quantum nature of, the time and the vibration, the frequency of music. Like, I feel like more and more we're just being drawn to this, like, away from the concepts of linear time and sequential music, and music having to have the same structure. And for us even to be able to humanize and, rationalize exactly what structure a song has, it really doesn't matter. It's the feeling that you get receiving that music. And I I don't look at my calendar on a Monday and go, Wednesday's sad day, and then like Thursday, that's happy day, and every Thursday's happy day. It's definitely, emotions are they're just a roller coaster as well. And it's a common question I get is like, are you going to run out of songs? Like, when are you going to stop? And I just say, are you worried you're going to run out of emotions or unique emotions? Like, I'm not. I'm pretty sure this moment now and for the rest of my life will be pretty unique in every
Yeah.
moment. And to share those experiences are unique, and encouraging that in our music and our creativity is also really beautiful, because there is no limitation. We can label stuff as humans, but we we're all on journeys that, if we allow them to, are just these full spectrum roller coasters.
Yeah. It can become just that narrative of our life, and a way of venting and expressing those things that so many people keep bottled inside, and not realizing that they already have the means to let it out. And it doesn't have to be on key, and it doesn't have to rhyme, or it doesn't there's those are all like bonuses or fun little things to add in there. But every single person can express their self through like, monkeys howling, from the treetops is them expressing their emotions. And humans have been doing that for millions and millions of years, until only modern time. And so that's one point, I guess. And off the back of that, also triggered by what you said before about the moving through linear time, and transcending some of these traditional structures that we think music to be. I think that, like, we've been caught in a bit of a loop since recording music. Like in a lot of ways, recording music is great and fantastic and cool, but in some ways it's actually been detrimental to our social structure of musical inclusion. Like, music used to be something that people did in the kitchen, because if you didn't make it, then there wasn't any music.
Yeah.
But now it's like, well, why would we make music? Or not only now, but since the development of recorded music, it's like, why would we make music when we can put on this record of somebody? And then you listen to that record and you're like, wow, they're really good. They make it sound better than we do. So now I feel inferior, and I actually don't want to try anymore, because they're so much better. But they're not better at expressing your emotions. Only you are the best at that. And so just because they can make it sound sweet doesn't mean that they're superior at doing that, literally therapy that we all need to do by howling from the tops of the trees. And hopefully we are moving into a new chapter that's going to because then the music industry, from that recorded music and just the novelty of recording, then moved into becoming an industry, which then said, okay, so how can we capitalize off this the most? Well, the best way to capitalize is to make a song 2 minutes and 30 seconds long. And that way we can play it on the radio and have a bunch of them and have commercial breaks and And then if they're really, it's best if they go verse, chorus, chorus, or whatever. And then, all these sorts of structures just based around the capitalizing off of music, and not necessarily about the magic behind it. And then all the bands fell into this trap of, well, we have to sing the same song that we've already recorded, because that's the one that everybody heard, so they want to hear that again. And then
and it just goes like narrower and narrower and narrower.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And then I have one other thought, but I'll leave it there if you want to share anything on any of those. And then I'm curious about the future. But
I totally agree, and I should go in a few minutes and take my dog out.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like that there is a world, there's a whole, like many things that have magic, there are existing, structures and programs that have lost their way and have tried to, and it's hard, right? It's also really hard, even for us. We've been talking about to monetize the magic. Like, once you create magic, how do you share that with others, and how do you pay your bills? And there are links, clearly between them, and understanding those links is, I think, actually pretty hard for the human mind, because we tend to think that, oh well, if I ever get in a low moment and I think, okay, how many hours have I done and how much have I got paid for how many songs? Like, okay, like, just what's the point? Like, why worry about that? But when I think of things like, well, how many hearts have I touched, and the overwhelming joy I receive from doing it is incredible. The phone's for me.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm almost done. Yeah, just tell them 1 second. I'll just wrap up. Yeah, sorry about to answer a call. So I better go.
Yeah. Hey,
yeah,
I think what you just said there was a really nice, conclusive wrap up anyway, and I really resonate with that. And I think it's fine to stop there because that leaves us room for part 2.
Definitely, yeah.
And yeah, one thing I watch a lot of these days is about AI and especially music and how that's all going to play out. And that could be some interesting chats to look into the future for us as well, if you wanted, or we'll have a jam or whatever. So I'd love to do this again. And thank you so much.
I better go. Thank you very much. Thank you. See you. Bye.
Thank you so much, John. We'll catch you soon.